In a previous video, and you guys can go find that, I talked about, train like a powerlifter, eat like a bodybuilder, and I'm going to expand on train like a powerlifter here for just a moment. I want people to understand something whenever I say things like train like a powerlifter. I am not suggesting that you have to do the competition lifts. Like, you don't have to back squat, and bench press with a competition bench press style and deadlift. But what I am suggesting is that you at least stick to those types of movements. So whether you choose to do a low bar back squat or a front squat, as far as I'm concerned, that's a squat and a squat. And so I think that there's a lot to be gained from squatting. I know that many people have made arguments like, oh, well, the limiting factor in the back squat is the low back. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a great reason to train the back squat. I would like to have a strong low back. So if the limiting factor in the back squat is your low back, great. Like, I can train legs through other means. I can do single leg work. I can do reverse lunges, and I can do hack squats, and I can do leg extensions and all kinds of stuff like that to bring my legs up. But wow, you mean to tell me that back squats will make my low back stronger? Well, if you're an athlete, one of the best things you can do is have a strong back. I tell people that all the time. I don't know why you wouldn't want to have a strong back. In fact, I don't really care if you have Tom Platt's legs. If you have a spine that's like a wet noodle and you get hit playing a contact sport, or let's say you're doing even judo or something, where you're getting kind of twisted around sometimes when you land weird, having a strong back will protect you from injuries. So I think that back strength is really important. So that's actually a better reason for me to back squat if you think that the limiting factor is the back. In any case, my point being, choose a squatting movement that works for you. You certainly don't have to do a competition-style low bar back squat. Do high bar back squats. Do safety bar squats. Do box squats. Like, if you're an athlete, it does not matter whether or not you can do the competition lift. Use box squats. There's nothing wrong with box squats. Box squats are great. And, you can box squat with a safety bar even. You can front squat, okay? You guys can overhead squat. I really don't think there's anything wrong with the overhead squat. Yes, you can't load it heavy enough to make your legs grow. Oh, okay, yeah, so I'll go use the hack squat or a leg extension or something like that from building my legs up. But there's certainly a lot of benefit to being able to do an overhead squat. Like, I've never seen someone that's like, oh, I can overhead squat 275, but I can't back squat 275. Yeah, it doesn't happen. I overhead squat 275. Back squatting 275 is not a problem then. Front squatting 275 is not a problem. If you can overhead squat something, you can squat it with a back squat or a front squat. Similarly, bench press. I don't bench press. I will floor press. I shouldn't say I don't bench press. I rarely bench press. So I will use bench press as a lightweight, and I will accumulate high reps, okay? But I don't bench press heavy. As far as I'm concerned, I don't like the risk of tearing my pec off. And I don't compete in powerlifting, so there isn't a huge incentive for me to bench press. But I do floor press and I do overhead press. And let me put it to you this way, okay? I can overhead press 225. I don't struggle to bench press 225. If you see someone who can overhead press 225, you can very confidently assume that they can bench press 225. You're not going to see a guy who overhead presses 315 pounds and can't bench it. So again, like I said about train like a power lifter, right? You don't have to do the competition lifts, but maybe you go with a front squat and an overhead press. And you treat those the same way that a powerlifter, like as far as your programming is concerned, you treat those like a powerlifter might treat the back squat and the bench press. And now we're on to deadlifts, okay? I don't care if you trap bar deadlift. If you're an athlete, no one's ever going to ask you to do a competition style deadlift. So use the trap bar. Like, it's totally fine. And as I've said before, I don't have a problem with using sumo deadlifts. I think sumo deadlifts are a great movement for people to do for just general strength. The question comes up, is it cheating? No, it's not cheating because it's not against the rules, but it is easier. And that's a mechanical thing. The bar doesn't travel as far, so if you take a load of 405 pounds and you lift it conventional, the bar path travels further. Therefore, you've done more work. If you sumo deadlift 405, The bar doesn't travel as far. Therefore, mathematically, like this is just physics, distance times the load, right? You've done less work. And plus, the sumo deadlift is more quads and it's less strenuous on your back. And I think we can all agree that the conventional deadlift is hard to recover from because it is hard on your back. So, that axial loading, that adds up over time. Don't get me wrong, you're getting axial loading from back squats as well. But, with the conventional deadlift, it certainly is harder on your back than a sumo deadlift. Therefore, you have to take that into account whenever you're planning out your volume. Well, I can trap bar deadlift really often. It's a lot easier on your back than conventional deadlifts. It's not a problem. You could do RDLs. Okay, you can use RDL as your deadlift type movement. Again, I'm just suggesting, rack pulls even, that you treat the lifting and program the lifting the way a power lifter would, but that does not mean you have to do the competition lifts. So now we just made up a program. We're going to front squat, overhead press, and trap bar deadlift. Yep, none of those are actual powerlifting competition lifts, but use the programming that powerlifters use, and those 3 lifts will get you a long way. And while I'm at it, I will tell you that I would use weighted pull-ups, but go ahead and program the same way that powerlifters might program their bench press. Okay, weighted pull-ups are great. I think weighted pull-ups are one of the most underrated exercises. You don't see people doing weighted pull-ups that have a weak back. Like, if you can get to a point where you're doing a 75-pound load for a set of 10, like you've got a great, you got a great back. I don't see people doing 75 pounds on a weighted pull-up for sets of 10 who don't have a strong back. So, you're going to build your lats up. You're going to have great pulling strength. And you can have other rows in there too. I think pen lay rows are great, bent over rows, croc rows, whatever. Single arm dumbbell rows, that's the assistance work though, right? So it's like I talked about, train like a power lifter. Okay, well, that doesn't mean all you can do is squat. Like, you're going to squat, and then maybe you do some leg extensions and some hamstring curls. Bring up those weak parts. Louis Simmons talked all about how the assistance exercises are this important thing. He's right. So you do your overhead press, and then you do some dumbbell skull crushers, and maybe you do some hammer curls. I think hammer curls are great. People will be like, "Oh, it's not functional." I don't care if hammer curls are functional or not. I don't care if curls are functional or not. Tearing a bicep tendon off sucks. So train your bicep because you don't want to get an injury. And anyone who thinks that bicep curls aren't functional, go ahead and go to your local jiu-jitsu school and see if you still believe that curls aren't functional. Bicep strength is very, very important. So is your grip strength. And then, finally, we'll get into our little deadlift thing here. I think that you should have trap bar deadlifts in there, along with, bar deadlifts, whether you're doing sumo or conventional. I think you should have some RDLs, some rack pulls, things like that. And of course, once that's done, you have all kinds of other assistance work you can do. You can have some reverse hypers, and you can get a GHD, glute ham developer, and do some glute ham raises. And you can get a Roman chair, and you can do 45-degree back extensions. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff you can do to work that posterior chain. I'm not suggesting that the only thing you do is deadlift, but those are like your big movements, right? You pick a big squat. Like I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a back squat. You can do a front squat. You can do a safety bar squat. You can do a box squat. You pick a pressing movement, incline press, floor press, overhead press. It does not have to be a competition competition bench press. I almost said deadlift. And then, then you have your competition deadlift. Oh, well, you don't have to do that because you could, trap bar deadlift, or you could rack pull, or you could RDL as your primary movement, and then you fill out the rest with all those assistance exercises. I include hamstring curls. I do. I don't make primary movements out of leg extensions and hamstring curls. That's not my primary movement. My primary movement is going to be a squat or a deadlift. But then I still include things like, any type of quad work. I don't care if you're doing sissy squats or hack squats or whatever it is that you want to include in there. That's still a good thing for you to include, but that's your assistance exercises, right? That's the stuff you're doing for the higher reps, and then you're using those big movements for heavy strength work. Same thing for the press. If I'm doing overhead presses or floor presses, I'm still going to include some skull crushers, maybe some lat pull downs. Maybe I'll get some dumbbells and do some dumbbell bench press. or maybe I'll do some dumbbell overhead presses. I'll do some single arm bench presses, single arm overhead presses. That stuff is still great. I'm not telling you not to do those things, but I do feel that there's a huge benefit to me doing a overhead press, even a behind the neck overhead press, and then I fill out I don't want to say gaps because it's not really gaps. It's like I get the additional work in by doing isolation work, lateral raises and things like that. You're not going to build huge shoulders doing just lateral raises because it's hard to load them heavy enough. But if you're getting in, behind the neck presses and, overhead presses from the shoulder, strict overhead presses, and you're doing floor presses and then you do some lateral raises as well, that's a pretty well-rounded program to build your shoulders up. Similarly for the deadlift even. Hey, you can have some kettlebell swings. Kettlebell swings, if you're doing them properly, you'll feel that in your hamstrings and your glutes. So, you can have that in there. You can do Nordic curls if you're capable of it, or you can do, hamstring curls. You can do standing hamstring curls. I love standing hamstring curls. I will put weights on my ankles and do standing hamstring curls, and, I'll get 100 reps per leg. There's a ton of options out there. But my point being, when I say train like a powerlifter, doesn't mean literally competition lifts. You're basically going to pick a squat, any squat. You're going to pick a press, any press, and you're going to pick some type of deadlifting movement, whether it's an RDL or a trap bar deadlift or whatever, rack pull, and then you fill out that stuff with all the assistance work afterwards. And I think that is really a great program for the majority of people. This is not for bodybuilders. Bodybuilders have very specific things. They want to have symmetry, and they want to have certain ratios of their shoulders want to be a certain way, and they want their waist to be small, and they want this tapered look with the small waist and the wide shoulders, and they're looking for these aesthetics. And I'm speaking more generally to people who maybe you just want to play sports and you just do it for fun. Like I like playing pickup hockey. I don't want to get hurt playing pickup hockey, so it behooves me to do some strength work. I also enjoy judo. I really love judo. I think judo is the best martial art out there, actually, and I'm not talking about that because I think judo fighters are going to beat everyone else, but I enjoy judo because of the fact that it teaches you how to fall. I tell people that all the time. It teaches you how to fall without getting hurt. And I think that is like one of the most underrated things in the entire world. How many people fall and break a hip or fall and break their wrist because they put their hand out or something, or people slip on ice. Learning how to fall is just such a good thing for you. And so I'm a huge fan of judo. Don't get me wrong. People are like, oh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is better because you have... Well, guess what? If you combine judo with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, now you have a fantastic program. Okay? So I encourage everyone to learn both. Anyways, my point being, my idea of train like a powerlifter is really more targeted at the general athlete, or the general fitness person, even if you will. Maybe you don't want to compete, but maybe you just want to be generally fit. Well, I still think that that's a great option for you. And I would tell you strongman, but strongman beats you up. At least it beats me up. I have a really hard time encouraging people to do Atlas stones or log presses because as much as I love Atlas stones and log presses, I'm aware that like the inside of my arms looks like someone took sandpaper to them if I do Atlas stones, and log presses leave bruises on me, and it's just because the apparatus itself is just not a very comfortable thing to lift. It's like a barbell's a lot easier. It really is. I swear to you, a barbell is way easier than lifting a log. Atlas stones. It's way easier to lift a barbell and do a deadlift than it is to lift an Atlas stone. Atlas stones will tear the skin off the insides of your arms. Those things beat you up. I love it. I do. I love it. I wish I was 7 feet tall and 400 pounds. I would compete in World's Strongest Man, but somehow I missed out on those genetics. My dad was 5'5" and my mom's like 5'2". So somehow I don't know why I'm not 7 feet tall, right? It doesn't make any sense. Why would short people have a short child instead of a 7 foot tall giant? But I can't turn a Yorkie into a pit bull. That's a good discussion. I should make a video about that. Yorkies and pit bulls. That should be a next video maybe. I'll talk about Yorkies on tren. You can put your Yorkie on tren, it's still not a pit bull. Anyways, you can't turn a donkey into a thoroughbred racehorse either. So there you guys have it. I hope this gives people a little bit of guidance, and I'm not telling you that you have to follow Chad's powerlifting program. Make your own, or buy one of the ones that are available online. There's tons of them. There's tons of them that are free. So just look at any powerlifting template, and then you can literally take Wendler 531 and do front squats, overhead presses, and trap bar deadlifts. You can take the same percentages and numbers and do it. There's nothing that says that Wendler 531 is only for back squats, bench presses, and deadlifts. You can rack pull. It won't. Just use the percentages, and just plug it in. So if you guys like the video, you watched 15 minutes of it. I assume you liked it. And leave me a comment below if you like this topic. If you want more on this topic, I'm more than happy to talk about programming. I have a lot of thoughts on programming, and I never give people one size fits all. I try to give people a general guideline so that you can take that and then apply it to your own program. And so I always try to tell my athletes, my goal is to say that you don't need me as a coach anymore. I want to teach you enough that you can write your own program. And so it's really my goal to teach people more than it is for me to tell people what to do. It's really easy for me to sit here and tell you what to do. It requires actual effort on my part if I want to teach you to do it for yourself. If I want to teach you how to do these things or how to write a program, that requires much more effort on my part. It's a lot easier for me just to send you, oh, here's a template, just plug your numbers in. Right, yeah. Well, I would much rather teach you how to write your program. So subscribe if you guys like this like this content, and please comment below. If you like this, or if you have thoughts even on this. Maybe you don't like using a template. Maybe you have some other approach to this. But I'm open to hearing other people's opinions on this, because I don't have an opinion that is strongly, I'm not it has to be this way. No, I've seen guys succeed doing all kinds of stuff, and that doesn't mean that there's only one way to do these things. As far as I'm concerned, what I'm sharing here is just that I'm sharing what I find to be the effective but also simple way to do this. Are there more complex ways of doing this? Of course there are. And are there other effective ways of doing this? Definitely. But this one, for me, I consider it to be simple and effective, which makes it even better, because if it's simple and effective, people are more likely to be able to implement it and adhere to it. And it's, why would you want to do something that isn't effective? And then also, why would you want to do something that's really complicated and complex? The effort level to implement that kind of program is just really hard. That's why I look at these CrossFit guys, and it's, people don't actually just do the CrossFit WODs. The people who are good at CrossFit periodize their programming. And I look at how much work they have to put in, and I'm just like, wow, yeah, it's not worth it to me. I wouldn't want to have to follow that kind of training program. They spend X number of weeks doing this and X number of weeks doing that, and that's hard. That's hard. And more power to them for being able to stick to it. But for me, I like simple. So I hope you guys like simple too.